up, everybody? We're back. Today we're talking about my new favorite camera, the Red Raptor X. This is the new global shutter camera, 8K VistaVision, brand new from Red. Today we're gonna go a little bit in, a little bit out, and kind of make some comparisons to some other cameras on the market. So hang tight and we'll jump into it right now. Okay, so the Raptor X, what's new about it? Well, not a whole lot other than the sensor. Now we've done a video in the past on the Red V-Raptor, the non-global shutter version. If you wanna check that out, we'll put a link below in the video. But with this, Red has done some new stuff with this new sensor, and because of that, it is fantastic. So, new sensor, 8K global shutter, same size, high dynamic range, great shadow retention, great highlight retention. They've also added something in here called extended highlights. Now, this kind of digs into the raw data and pulls out some extra stops of highlights. We'll get into that a little bit in our testing, but a really cool feature. Not only that, they've improved the audio boards and some other internals, so this camera just runs overall a lot better, sounds better, looks better. And now that it's global shutter, I think this is just great because now you can cut the Raptor in with other cameras in the DSM-C3 lineup like Komodo X or the OG Komodo, and now everything has the same motion cadence, which matters to me in my dear little heart. So we're just gonna jump into some testing right now, and then when we come back, you might be asking yourself, well, why is this Sony Burano here? Well, it's because we're gonna show you a little bit of this as well, and just make some comparisons since these are similarly priced. So let's get into some testing. The first test we're gonna do is just some overexposure and underexposure at some different ISO values, since as you shift the ISO, your under and over for middle gray changes. So let's see those right now. Now we're just gonna talk a little bit about extended highlights. Right now this is not available in Resolve, but it should be very soon. So we have to go into Red Cine X, do a little magic, but we're gonna show you some stuff that's very blown out and how much we can recover using the new extended highlights, which is a kind of version of HDRX where you're taking two exposures at the same time and then mixing and matching to get more latitude in post. So let's see some of that right now. Okay, really quick, we're just gonna test the new boards for the audio. So we're just gonna roll a quick test. This is just going to be straight into the camera using Red's little breakout box. So let's just hear a quick clip. Okay, so this is an audio test. This is running a Schoeps CMIT 5U about this far from my head. Typical interview type scenario. We're just gonna play this, and we'll play it back to back with the Sony Burano because that camera sounds damn good internal. So let's see if this can also sound damn good. Let's check it out. Okay, so this is our audio test. We're just going directly to camera with an XLR cable from a Schoeps CMIT 5U shotgun. We're about maybe this far from my mouth. So typical interview setup going right to camera. So that's our testing. We've already done a lot of testing with Raptor and I absolutely love this camera. But now we're going to get into a little bit of talk about price and competition. So the new V-Raptor X is right around $30,000. Sitting in right below that is the Burano. Now, if you don't want the global shutter version of the Raptor, you can also pay $24,000 roughly and get the non-global version, which is almost identical price to the Burano. Now, after spending extensive time testing the Burano in a previous video, I feel like it's really worth comparing these two because they're the only ones in this price bracket. So, what's my choice? I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, I like Raptor for almost everything right off the bat more than Burano. Burano wins in straight out of camera image, and Burano wins, in my opinion, on every camera that is on the market. This thing looks fantastic out of camera. Raptor doesn't look bad by any means. This is just benchmark level color, and Red's close. If you go into post and make a couple little adjustments, it's there, but out of camera, maybe not as good as Burano. From there, Burano also wins on autofocus. Red is still really honestly surprisingly good, but Burano wins as well. Now from here, this is where pretty much the Raptor takes over in pretty much every measurable metric. This camera has basically no external screens, so if you do want to go without anything, you can't see what you're doing unless you have a monitor hooked up, whereas the Red has the screen on the outside. You can go through, make all your adjustments without needing a screen on board. The weight, 7 pounds versus roughly 3 pounds. Size-wise, much more compact. You can get this on a very small gimbal if you want, like a RS3, whereas this is very iffy. You've got 2 SDI ports, 2 independent SDI ports that can have your own LUT, however you want on each one, assignable, toggleable, however you want to set them up. These are basically a clones. This is essentially an SDI splitter. You can get 2 outputs in the Burano, but you are not quite going to be able to have any sort of control, overlays, anything like that. From here, also, the Red has really great Wi-Fi connectivity, USB-C, but with this Wi-Fi, you can use the Red Control app where you can do all sorts of stuff with autofocus, control the camera, use an iPad to monitor. It is wonderful. Flexibility in your needs, this gives you way more. Not to mention, this also shoots 3 flavors of ProRes internally, whereas no ProRes on here, but it does have some other codecs that are pretty friendly when you're talking about low file size, you know, on long records. One other thing here to put in is like VistaVision sensor versus 16:9 sensor, field of view. You're gonna be able to get a little bit more shallow with this, respectively, based on lenses you put on. Really great camera, all in. Now from here, while the Burano has a dual base ISO at 800 and 3200, doesn't matter which one you're on, the Raptor still outperforms it in underexposure and realistically cleanliness of the shadows. When you go up to 6400 in the 3200 base or 12800, it's pretty dicey on what I would say both cameras. Noise reduction resolve cleans a lot of that up, but still roughly about the same performance. The only difference being, you know, your values of shadow retention change as you go up the scale in this, as well as this as well, but they're mapped differently, so something to consider there. Both are really good and really power efficient. The Red, I feel like, is a little bit easier to do breakout box stuff for timecode and run stop while still maintaining size. You pretty much have to add some pretty bulky stuff onto this camera to get more of that functionality as well. So adding more bulk to this. Now, the internal NDs on this are really great and will work for any mount. E mount, PL mount, if you want to adapt an EF mount, it's all gonna be there. No internal NDs on the Red, but this breakthrough RF to PL mount with a variable ND is honestly on par image quality wise with the internal of the Burano, but as soon as you take this off and go RF mount, or if you want to do EF mount, you're going to lose that capability of the variable ND and now have to run something else. So realistically, I love the Raptor, and now that it's global shutter, really you can take it on almost anything. If you're thinking about docks, well, this might actually be a better dock camera than this, especially if you're toggling between slow-mo and real speed, lights, natural light in the street lights, TV screens. All that flicker is not going to be here on the Raptor X versus the Burano. No rolling shutter if you're going crazy doing stuff. This camera, I feel like at the price, really competes with Venice 2 and Alexa 35, which are 4 times more expensive, whereas this camera does some of that stuff, but they've obviously had to cripple it because of where the Venice sits. And just all in all, pound for pound, the image out of this looks great, and it's so flexible in post, and you can do so much with it internally in terms of frame rates and anamorphic options and using the sensor in a multiple array of sizes to get different aspect ratios. You're a little bit limited on the Burano. All in all, the Raptor X is a camera that I feel confident taking on almost any shoot, being able to be on a large shoot, a small shoot, run and gun, interview stuff for corporate, music video. It really is a camera that can do almost anything you throw at it. And it's really nice to see Red implementing stuff that still feels cutting edge, and no longer is it the most expensive. They're doing cutting edge stuff for a fraction of the price, whereas Arri and Sony are still doing great stuff, just it's expensive. And if money is a concern to you, a camera that you can use more often for more jobs means less times you have to rent other cameras. And personally, I think this is maybe the greatest return on investment camera that's out currently if you have a clientele for larger jobs that puts you in the range where you're shooting on something like this pretty frequently. If you haven't shot with a Raptor or a Komodo X, fantastic cameras. You should go out and play with one. But overall, that's our test. That's our thoughts on the Raptor X. Very glad we have it. If you're ever in Seattle, want to play with it, it's here. If I'm not shooting with it, because that might be happening a lot. So, all right, that's our video on the Raptor X. Some tests, some comparisons. We love it, both great cameras, but I personally am in love with the Raptor X. So thanks for watching. Remember, like and subscribe. Hopefully, we'll see you on the next one.